Hua Mulan. Once upon a time, in ancient China, there was a legendary heroine called Hua Mulan. She was not only filial and loyal, but her courage and patriotism equaled, if not surpassed, the heroic men of her times. Her father, Hua Hu, was a veteran general who had fought bravely in several wars. His right foot had been seriously injured, and he had been forced to return home to a rural village in southern China. Mulan was his youngest daughter, and she learned martial arts from her father from a very young age. Mulan's brother was 5 years old and was called Mo Li. There was a sister named Mo Hui. Although her sister adored Mulan, she criticized Mulan's tomboyish behavior, as she was very feminine and was only interested in needlework. The 3 children were born in a period of instability and war. There was no strong ruler, and ancient China was split into north and south, with the north being overrun by barbaric tribes. The emperor of southern China had to constantly recruit young men to fight against frequent invasions by the northern barbarians at the border. Hua Hu loved his children very much and tried to provide for them as best as he could in such turbulent times. He was constantly worried about invasion by the northern barbarians. One day, his worries came true, and it was worse than he expected. The imperial messenger announced,
"One man from every family must serve in the imperial army."
Hua Hu was called up to fight. He had no choice but to obey the order. Mulan and her mother started crying.
"Father, let me fight in your place,"
Mulan pleaded. Sadly, this was not possible, as Mulan was a girl. Mulan's father tenderly stroked her head. He was grateful for her bravery. Mulan could not sleep that night. While she lay awake, she made the biggest decision of her life. Early the next morning, Mulan dressed up as a man and walked boldly into her house.
Young man, who are you? Where are you from?
Hua Hu asked. He did not recognize his own daughter.
"I am your son, father,"
Mulan said proudly. Mulan's mother recognized her. The whole family shed tears. So it was decided Mulan would go to war in place of her father. At the imperial camp, the recruitment officer took a register. Mulan, making her voice deep, explained that she was Mo Li, son of Hua Hu. Although the officer was unsure, he was too busy to check Mo Li's age. Mulan's plan was working. Mulan endured 3 months of tough and intensive training at the camp. Then, Mulan, together with other recruits led by Captain Li, rode their horses to the border to report to General He at his fortress. Not long afterwards, the Han tribes attacked one of the fortresses. General He commanded Captain Li to lead a troop of 5,000 soldiers to confront the Huns. In this battle, Mulan fought bravely and fiercely. They succeeded in forcing the Huns to retreat. This was to be one of many battles that Mulan fought and won. She was commended and rose through the ranks after each successful battle. After 10 years, many of her compatriots who first came to the battlefront with her had died. Mulan had secretly grown into a woman, and she was promoted to the rank of commanding general. The Huns had retreated to the fortress at the foot of Mount Mo Tien. It was a strategic location which had a steep cliff on both sides that acted as a natural barrier, whilst a small road led to the fortress. It was heavily guarded, as this was the only way to the fortress. Mulan and her troops were defeated several times as they tried to chase the Huns away from the fortress. So, the Huns confidently stationed all their troops on Mount Mo Tien and used it as a base to launch their attacks. One night, the dejected Mulan rode her horse slowly to the cliff. Sitting on her horse, she could see the flickering lights from the enemy's camp. Mulan wished she could defeat her enemy once and for all. The moon was shining brightly in the sky. Mulan missed her family dreadfully and prayed to the goddess of the moon.
Please let me defeat the Huns, then the war will be over and I can return to my family.
Mulan stood and watched for a long time. Suddenly, an object flying from one tree to another startled her. She looked closely and saw that it was a squirrel, a small animal living in the trees.
How amazing that it can fly,
she said. She watched it with great interest and noticed that the squirrel was not really flying, but it was gliding. When it stretched itself out, its body and skin became a big, flat surface, like a sail, which could be used to glide against the wind. In this way, it cleverly escaped from its predators. All of a sudden, Mulan had an idea. The next day, Mulan ordered her officers,
Go, buy as much cloth as you can find.
To another officer,
Go, hire as many tailors as you can find.
To a third officer,
Go, Find a local woodcutter who can help us to make a small path leading to the edge of the cliff next to the fortress.
The next month she was very busy working with the tailor to design some strange-looking clothes. She got the soldiers to put them on and to jump from one tree to another. As the trees got higher and higher, many soldiers fell and were hurt. But when the clothes were perfected, there were fewer injuries. The soldiers were curious about why they were doing this, but no one dared to ask. One starless night, Mulan launched her attack, demonstrating outstanding leadership.
Take 1,000 men with you. At midnight, create loud noises as if you are leading a troop of 10,000 soldiers. If the enemy comes out and fights, pretend to lose. After the encounter, retreat along a small road to the open ground.
Mulan instructed one officer. Then Mulan sent 2 officers, leading a troop of 10,000 soldiers each, to lay in wait, ready to ambush along the open ground. She said,
If the enemy comes after our soldiers to the open ground, kill them. But if they do not follow us, do not attack until you see fire rising up from inside the fortress.
She herself led 500 soldiers quietly up the small mountain path that the woodcutters had made. When it was time, the Huns heard loud noises and thought that Mulan's troops were attacking. The Huns' general cried,
Let's defeat them once more. We are sure to beat them on the small road again.
According to the plan, Mulan's troops retreated quickly after their encounter. The enemy soldiers followed them, but stopped before they reached the open ground.
Still the same old trick? Do you think I am really that stupid? You think I would let you defeat us on the open ground?
The Huns' general laughed. Suddenly, he saw a flame rushing up into the sky from their fortress.
The enemy has lured me out, and now they have entered our fortress.
The general cried,
I have been tricked.
As he spoke, the ambushers rushed towards the Huns' soldiers. The Huns' general was so frightened that he fled to his own kingdom. Without the general's leadership, many of the Huns were killed. Some surrendered. Mulan's cunning plan had worked. She had led 500 soldiers to the cliff and glided down into the fortress quietly with the clothes they had made. They had lit fires everywhere and had tricked the Huns' general into thinking the fortress was being taken over. Mulan was victorious. She won the battle and ended the war with the Huns. She proudly led her triumphant troops back to the capital. The emperor offered Mulan a ministerial position in his court. Mulan politely declined.
Your Majesty, Mulan has no use for a minister's post. Please grant me my wish to return home to serve my aged parents,
she said. The emperor was touched by Mulan's filial piety and granted her wish. Mulan was finally reunited with her family after 12 long years. Her family was happy beyond belief. Months later, her soldiers visited her, and to their surprise, found their respected general to be a woman. The story of Mulan spread throughout ancient China and is still being told to this day.